In the downtown precinct station, the air was dense with the smell of old coffee, cheap disinfection, and the faint metallic flavor of despair floating through the air. With his boots propped up on a damaged file cabinet, Sergeant Vince Bulldog Brannigan reclined back in his creaking chair and regaled rookies. Davis and Finch with updates on the action that had occurred during the morning. Brannigan let out a giggle that sounded like gravel being thrown into a tin can. Then he said, "This character make their way to the front desk. The worn-out flannel, pants that were older than Finch, in these ridiculously bright orange. Crocs gave the impression that he had slept in a trash behind that posh organic juice bar. There was a slight odor of soil for planting. He asserts that he is required to report any suspicious behavior that occurs outside of the new Obsidian Tower. It is said that he is employed there." Brannigan let out a snort. "Yeah, mopping floors maybe." Davis grinned, wanting to satisfy his audience. Why would he desire that? Did you see a bird gazing at him in a peculiar way? With his spectacles adjusted, Finch, the most intellectual of the two, but equally cynical, adjusted his glasses. "The Tower of Obsidian? What you see there belongs to Sovereign Shield. To put it simply, Vince, our authority ends at the curb. Why would he even bother to come here, exactly?" He slapped his boots down with a loud thud. "What I said to him was, listen, Sunshine, Sovereign Shield is responsible for their own security. The air rights, the sidewalk rights, and more than likely the blasted pigeons are all under their ownership. Their brass doorknobs are not polished by our company." Man just gazed at me, comparable to a bewildered basset hound. It was said that it was significant, possibly anything to do with unapproved patrols and aggressive strategies in the vicinity of the employee entrance. It was a whining voice that Brannigan imitated. A sergeant said, they were people who were intimidating. It seemed to be overdone. His eyes were rolled in a dramatic manner. I responded by saying, "Excessive. Befriend, you are in a city. Perhaps you should stick to your compost pile." Then Davis here, he jerked a hand, asked if he needed directions back to the park bench where he was sitting. One of Davis's chests was blown up. "That's right. The public library is warmer, buddy," the gentleman said. Picture books were given to them. Everyone in the small group burst out laughing, and the sound reverberated loudly off the floor. The guy in the old plaid shirt who was loitering by the water cooler and refilling a chipped porcelain mug that was adorned with a fading university insignia went unnoticed by them. Prior to the beginning of their nobody narrative, he had been quietly monitoring the desk sergeant as he dealt with a complaint of a minor front-end collision. The guy turned around. His height was ordinary, his gray hair was thinning, and his eyes were a light blue color. He wore basic wireframe spectacles. He was not intimidating. However, the calm intensity in his stare, which had been honed over the course of decades of creating empires from boardrooms and battlefields, pierced through the hubbub of the station like a laser. "You find my concern for proper procedure amusing, Sergeant?" Even though he was calm and his tone was free of hostility, the weight of his voice was unsettling. With a flicker of annoyance, Brannigan swiveled his head. "You once more. I'm sorry, Crocs, but I didn't give you your own marching orders. Conquer it. Your civic dramatics are not going to be performed in this community theater." It was a leisurely sip of water that the guy drank. "Proper procedure," he said, dismissing the rejection at the same time, "is not just about jurisdiction lines on a map. There's a contract at issue here. To be more specific, the City Services Acquisition and Oversight Agreement between the City Council and Sovereign Shield Holdings.
Ace.
Specifically Section 17, subsection B, which is titled Integrated Response Protocols." Brannigan closed his eyes. An expression of worry appeared on Finch's face as he scowled to himself. "I don't understand what the heck you're talking about, old guy. We are employed by Sovereign Shield to provide assistance, traffic management, and other such services. Instead than following the instructions of any security company, we respond to the chief." "Ah," the guy said with a nod, placing his mug down with a click that was quite accurate. "It is important to note that the chief is accountable to the city council." With a pause, he allowed the words to linger before continuing. "And the city council responds to Sovereign Shield Holdings as well. Mainly due to the fact that Sovereign Shield does not simply recruit the members of the police force. Sovereign Shield Holdings has been the owner of the operational contract for this complete police department ever since the city underwent a transformation in its financial situation the previous year. We are responsible for paying the bills. We are the ones that establish the criteria. We are the most desirable employer for you." There was a deep and crushing silence that fell. The smirks of the novices disappeared. The Finch became pallid. At first, Brannigan's expression was one of astonishment, then perplexity, and then it settled into a growing terror that made his stomach turn. To put it simply, it is not conceivable. That's crazy. Which one are you? He dug into the pocket of his faded flannel and pulled out something. This is not for a wallet, but rather for a sleek phone that is matte black. It was touched twice by him. Instantaneously, the primary interior video displays of the precinct seemed to flicker. These screens often displayed announcements or updates on procedures. After the municipal seal was removed, it was replaced with the stark and uncluttered emblem of Sovereign Shield, which consisted of a shield that was stylized and indestructible. The room was filled with a smooth, synthetic female voice that gently echoed all about. Authentication via biometrics has been verified. Mr. Silas Thorne, you are very welcome. It is acknowledged by Sovereign Shield Command that primary authority exists, awaiting more instructions. This is Silas Thorne. When Brannigan heard the name, it was like a punch to his body. The tech behemoth who lives a secluded life, person who established Sovereign Shield. This individual is the creator of the contentious public-private partnership that the city has. The guy whose face was seldom seen in the media and who was famous for his idiosyncrasies, such as gardening in his penthouse and wearing Crocs. In his pocket, Thorne hid his phone. The logo was not removed. The tone of his voice remained calm, but it was suddenly imbued with an obvious frigid power. As for who I am, he added, I am the nobody whose employees you mocked. I am also the individual who watched your disregard for duty, your casual cruelty toward a person who reported a real concern, and your abysmal ignorance of the same corporation that is responsible for signing your paychecks. A step closer to the desk was taken by him. Immediately, Brannigan retreated from the situation. Do you remember what I said about unauthorized patrols? Not a single member of the Sovereign Shield was present. According to Sergeant, these were your cops. Specifically, officers Davis and Finch are on the scene, using department cars while on city time, conducting unlawful security sweeps around Sovereign Shield property, harassing our personnel, most likely shaking them down for protection payments, or just exercising misguided power, so on and so forth. To have a better idea of how a complaint of this kind would be handled at the source, I visited here myself and remained incognito. He made a hazy motion around the station as he spoke. I found the source of the rot. Thorne shifted his attention to Finch and Davis, who seemed to be experiencing severe symptoms of illness. Both of you, not allowed to continue. Instantaneously, it is imperative that you go to the Sovereign Shield Internal Affairs Department at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Bring your representatives from the Union. There is a need for them. Then, at long last, he returned his attention to Brannigan, whose face was drenched in perspiration. Sergeant Brannigan, please. The manner in which you conducted yourself today was not only unprofessional. Rather, it was a breach of the public trust that this department works so hard to maintain. Your termination, effective immediately, is effective. Put your workspace in order. You will be escorted out for your safety. Through a hoarse murmur, Brannigan was able to find his voice. To you, that is not possible. Those are my rights. It's been 20 years. 20 years of what, Sergeant? Thorne inquired. Use a voice that was ominously low. Are you establishing a reputation for being a bully? Not following the protocol? Making fun of the same people you pledged to defend for your country? He made a small inward thrust. Therefore, your rights come to a stop at the point when Sovereign Shield as contractual responsibility to offer competent and ethical policing starts. You did not succeed. Superbly impressive. You should think of your dismissal as the first stage in the process of recalibration for the department. He took up his university mug, which had a chips in it. As for the sergeant, some words of wisdom for your future profession which may be in the field of true security. Whenever someone complains wrongdoing or excessive force, you should listen to them. In particular, he said, halting at the entrance, the orange Crocs suddenly seeming less silly and more like emblems of untouchable power, especially if they smell like potting soil, he said. There is no way to tell for certain who the garden's owner is. As Silas Thorne exited the building, the huge precinct doors sighing shut behind him, the displays continued to broadcast the insignia of the Sovereign Shield. Finch's trembling gasps, The frantic clicking of Brannigan as he fumbled with his locker combination under the watchful eye of a suddenly very attentive desk officer, and Davis's faint, unbelieving whisper, "Orange Crocs," were the only noises that could be heard. We were under his control in Orange Crocs. The lesson reverberated louder than any siren. True power often moves stealthily, disguised in obscurity, and failing to recognize the significance of the nobody may result in the loss of all and everything. In an instant, the underpinnings of their conceited universe had collapsed as a result of the sovereign of the shield walking among them without being noticed until he made the decision to call attention to himself.